This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I am your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. And you can find everything you want to know about me at hikingbob.com with links to social media, my columns to Colorado Springs Independent, my photography website, all the other podcasts I've done here at Studio 809 Podcast. And I know this is going to be like number 316 or in any case, all that stuff you can find at hikingbob.com. And don't forget to, if you like this podcast, and I hope you do, you can support it at Patreon, patreon.com/hikingbob, and you can be rewarded for your patronage and your support. And we appreciate the support. It helps pay the bills and keeps this podcast alive, because there are some bills, not always very major, but there's some bills. Also, if you're a business related to outdoor recreation and you want to, you're interested in maybe becoming a sponsor, you can email me and you can find the link on the website. You can contact me and we could talk about you becoming a sponsor for the website. And we always appreciate our sponsors too. So all that at my website. Today with me is Wild Westendorf.
Hey everyone, it's Wild Westendorf here. You can find everything you need at wildwestendorf.com and Wild Westendorf on Facebook and Instagram.
There you go. So, Kevin, a couple of things. You know, summer's kind of winding down, although I know none of us want to
unfortunately
accept the thing. And fall color season's coming by. You know, we talk about that a lot because a lot of people want to know where to go hiking for fall colors, and fall color photography is a big thing of mine. There was and I wish I could find it, but it confirmed what I suspected was a newspaper article my wife actually found and sent to me, but I lost the link. But in any case, I kind of suspected that fall color season would run a little later this year. And it seems to be confirmed by a number of sources that because we've had a pretty wet summer, it's been a warm summer, but not obscenely hot. We're still getting rain. We just got some pretty good rain over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That it looks like, actually last Friday, because I got caught in it while out hiking at Mueller State Park,
fun.
But I had rain gear. That the fall color season is going to run in this part of the state, which we will call basically the southeast corner of the state. It's going to run a little later, and they're also predicting it's going to run a little longer than usual, which is always kind of nice, because sometimes, as we've seen in the past, when the weather's been questionable, if you do get a fall colors, they last like maybe a few days and then they're done. They're actually predicting it's going to last a little longer. So fingers crossed the weather holds up. About the only thing that could stop this would be like an early fall freeze or something, but the forecast doesn't seem to be leaning that way. Actually leaning towards a pretty mild, at least fall. I don't know what winter's going to look like. It's still, you know what I say, it's more than 3 days out. Any forecast is questionable.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
In any case, so that looks like that's what's happening here as far as the fall colors. The other thing that happens with the end of summer is, for us photography nerds, is the end of the Milky Way being visible. And the Milky Way, probably a lot of people don't think about it. They know if they see it if it's up there in the sky, and you know, on a new moon, there's no moon, you see it. But the Milky Way is only actually visible from like maybe February till maybe a little bit into September. And then after that, it's below the horizon. You don't see it for several months until the following spring. So this past weekend, last weekend, I was out a couple of times shooting some Milky Way pictures. And
cool.
It was fun to get them. We got some beautiful pictures. But, you know, it's coming to be the end of that, too. So, you know, kind of the end of summer kind of wraps up a couple of things that we all like to do here during the summer. You know, wildflowers are still going very strong.
Yeah.
The sunflowers look great. And that's going to wind down here in the next few weeks. And then we shift gears into fall colors. Hopefully we have a nice long season of that. And then we all wait patiently for the snow, which if it's like last year doesn't come till March or something like that. In any case, so I did a hike today. We're recording this on Monday. It's going to air on Wednesday. But I did the Devil's Head Fire Lookout Tower hike today, and I've been here 31 years, and I haven't done that hike in probably 25 years. And that was
incredible.
That was the first time I did it, and this was the second time I did it. It's been closed for a while. COVID caused it to be closed because it's a pretty small place.
Yeah.
And they didn't want people up there bothering to look, you know, and worried about COVID. And I think there were some other reasons. Well, there's some signs at the bottom of the trail where about 6 years ago there was a tornado that ripped through there, an F5.
Really?
Tornado that
I did not know that.
Just knocked down some trees and everything, so I imagine there was some work clearing that and everything. But the Devil's Head Lookout is a fun hike. It's not very long. It's a little strenuous. And that takes you to the base of the stairs going up to the lookout. And then there's a whole bunch, I want to say 143 stairs. What did I tell you, Ken? We were talking about this before we started recording. I believe there's 143 stairs up to the tower. I am pulling that up right now, and I will tell you, because being a smart person I am, I took a picture of the sign. And it is 143 steps. I got it right.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So 143 steps, kind of steep going up there. You're not supposed to bring a dog up there, although some people seem to just not want to pay attention to that sign. Brought their dogs up there. Cole was home because he had a surgery, and he's still recovering nicely at home, and he's definitely not doing any stair climbing. But a beautiful day up there today. You can hike up to the lookout, the lookout tower up there. The tower, it's a shack on top of a rock. It's a feat of engineering.
Yeah.
The steps that get up there are a feat of engineering. So the lookout tower was not manned today. Now, the person who works there has a house at the bottom of the stairs. And, it's behind a fence, and it's a private residence, so you don't bother them or anything. And the person who works there was not working today. Obviously, they were at their house. The doors were open and stuff. So you couldn't go in the tower, and I don't think they used to years ago let you go in the tower, inside the building itself when they were open. You can't do that anymore, but there's a walkway around it. So you can walk around. It's a very small thing, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, maybe 12 by 12.
Oh, wow.
It's very small with windows all around it. But I walked around it. The views are to die for from up there. It was a beautiful day with blue skies and puffy white clouds, and just a tremendous day for hiking up there. Well, again, a short hike. And there's another little spur trail just before you make the last climb up to the tower, to the base of the stairs, for an overlook trail that kind of comes off of there. And it's a very short trail, and it's a real easy one, except for a couple of down trees you have to work your way around. And there's an overlook there and a plaque for the person it's named after. All of this will be in my column coming up in the Independent, so you'll read more about it with more detail. But here's another thing about things coming to an end, is that the tower is typically only manned until about the end of September.
Okay.
So when they close it down, they lock the gate at the bottom of the stairs, so you can't get up there. And they close Rampart Range Road, which you need to take to get there, around the 1st of December. And that usually stay closed till sometime in April, May, June, depending on what kind of winter we had. So that'll be closed. So if you want to do this thing, you've got about a month to do it. I'll get it published this coming week, hopefully in the Independent, and get it out there so anybody wants to go up there and enjoy it. And that's why I always have my column done on Friday, so people can look at it and maybe say, hey,
it makes sense.
And we have a 3-day weekend coming up with Labor Day, so it's like, hey, this might be a time to go and do that. Like, you've never done that, have you?
No.
You should do it. It's a lot of fun. It's a bit of a drive from Colorado Springs, and I will tell you that even though it's off of Rampart Range Road, you do not want to drive the length of Rampart Range Road from Colorado Springs or Woodland Park, because it's at the other end of Rampart Range Road. It's like 8 miles from the northern end of it, and it is a washboardy road. And I will tell you that I probably rattled every nut, bolt, and screw in the Jeep loose, along with the fact that I think my kidneys are probably going to be bleeding by the time this is all done. And I came in from the north, and I'll have detailed directions on how to get there. If you go north up into Castle Rock and circle your way around, that's really the way to go. But anyway, a lot of fun, beautiful hike. There's a lot of history. There's a really great signboard at the base of the stairs with a really nice history of the lookout tower. It is the only lookout tower left in Colorado. It was one of the earliest ones ever made. It has a really cool history. Really pretty cool place. So if anybody wants to go do it, it's a family-friendly hike. But remember, you can take your dog on the trail, but you cannot take them up to the tower. So if you're going to go up there with your dog, then somebody's got to stay down. They don't want you just tying your dog up and going up there.
Oh, yeah.
I could do that with Cole if he was well, but, they would make him, you've heard him, they make him crazy. But if you trade off who goes up there and who goes down or something, if somebody's not, if you're afraid of heights, this may not be the place for you. So the person who's afraid of heights can just stay there at the bottom with the dog or something. But really a lot of fun. and a really cool and it's been closed for a while, so it just recently reopened, but it's got a short window because they're going to close it up again here in another month or so, and then you won't be able to go up there till next summer. And the other thing to remember too is check the weather before you go there, because there's even a hint that lightning will be occurring. They're going to shut that thing down and kick everybody out of there. Even the person who works there doesn't go up there when there's lightning. They've got lightning protection and stuff, but even they don't go up there when there's a chance of lightning. So think about that in the July, August monsoon season. That may not be the time. It's like I said, it's a ways to drive. Now there are great views on the trail on the way up there. There's some nice little side hikes you can take. There's great places to overlook. So it's not like it would be a wasted thing if you don't get up to the tower. But obviously, if you're going up there, you want to go up the tower and see it. And on days that there's a person working there, you can chat with them and stuff. Obviously, they're not sealed up and, oh, I can't see it. You can talk to them and stuff like that. Just, obviously, if you're going to go up there, you want to go up and see the tower. So if there's a day when there's lightning storms predicted, you might want to skip it and wait for another day. Again, here at the end of August, going in September, we've always talked about this, Kevin. This is the best time of the year, we think, to be here. The weather's really good. So
I just think it's really neat that it's perceived as a very old school method of detecting fires. Because I'm sure now we could set up cameras and all that such. But it's just cool that it's still a thing. Yeah,
it is. And there used to be many, many more of these all around especially the West. There used to be so many more. Some of them were just on big honking towers. This thing is perched on a rock, on top of a mountain. Even in New Jersey, where I'm from, and I was just there, a couple months ago, we still have a couple of fire towers that are operated by the state. That are still being in use. Some of them in the pine barrens, what we call them, and where there's a specific kind of pine tree that are still being used in the state. But as far as the Forest Service goes, not so much. And there's a lot of technology, obviously, with satellites.
Yeah,
you could look at a satellite feed on the from the Weather Service, and you can actually see lightning strikes almost as they occur. So that obviously tells them where there might be a fire. And then, of course, they have drones and airplanes and helicopters.
Yeah.
And, let's just launch a drone and see if there's a fire out there or something like that. But sometimes the human touch is the way to go. And you have these towers with people in them, and they have radios, and they have these fancy, they have spotting scopes and all this kind of stuff that they can zoom in. And sometimes it may even be that they'll get a report of a fire. Like today, the person wasn't working there, but I'm sure that if somebody had reported a fire, somewhere where they could see it, would probably have called her and said, can you go up there and see what you can see? Because it might take a while for people to get out there and stuff like that. So I'm sure that, that's always helps too. They can confirm it. They can help pinpoint where it is. They can keep an eye on it till crews get there. There's a lot of things that can happen. So, let's not discount the human touch, for this kind of stuff, even with all the technology we have.
Now, was that a fire lookout tower that we hiked up to when we hiked in Preventable Mountain Park?
Yes, that was actually an old fire lookout tower. It's not being used anymore, but exactly. Yeah, in Preventable Mountain Park, there's that lookout on the far south side of the park. You have to climb up that trail to get up there. But yeah, exactly what that was. That was an old fire lookout tower. Not nearly as high, so it covered a smaller area. But it still had pretty good views, and you could see quite a bit from up there. But yeah, that's exactly what that was. I forgot all about that, but there you go. But not many of those. Actually, this is the only operating fire lookout tower left in Colorado. So if you're interested in that, let's watch for my column on it, and I'll give you directions how to get there and a little synopsis of it. But I think you'll find it good. The other limiting factor is the parking area for it is rather small. And you can't park along the road leading to it. There is not really much parking elsewhere. There's a campground nearby, but obviously that parking there is for campers. And actually today when I was there, it was closed. So you couldn't park there anyway. So parking is kind of limited. This is kind of a thing, if you can do it on a weekday, may be better than trying to do it on a weekend or a holiday or something like that.
Okay.
In any case. Speaking of climbing mountains and going to high places, there's been a distressing number of incidents that have occurred in different parts of the country where have resulted in deaths. 2 of them have been a result of falls. One was in New Hampshire. Another one was in the Grand Canyon just a couple of days ago. And then there was another one that occurred where a person died. This was not fall-related, but heat-related over near Lake Havasu City, which, as you can imagine, in the summer, it is blazing hot there.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're out on the water, which you think might be cool, all that sun is reflecting off the water. It's blazing hot over there. So here's what happened. On this one hike and there's a common thread to this, which is why I'm bringing these things up. This one happened in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. 3 people were hiking. They took a tram to the top of Cannon Mountain, a peak in New Hampshire. They were going to tour the summit before returning back to base by taking the tram down again. They changed their mind, decided they would hike down the mountain instead. Okay, people do that. Not an issue. They were not following, and here's the key thing, they were not following an established hiking trail starting down where they thought was a ski trail. They encountered a location that was rocky, wet, and steep with a waterfall. They tried to maneuver their way down. One of the hikers slipped, causing them to fall off a ledge. That didn't work out too well. He, unfortunately, did not make it. They witnessed a fall, called 911. First responders were able to hike the coordinates, and they were able to locate the missing man. They found that he was deceased at the bottom of the waterfall. So what's the key thing there? Was that they were off the trail. Then we had a hiker died at the north rim of the Grand Canyon. You don't hear too many of these happening on the north rim.
Yeah.
Mostly because not that many people go there. But this is somebody who was hiking on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. He was on the Bright Angel Point Trail, which, again, I've been on that trail a couple of times. I don't know how you go off trail there. You got to do some rock scrambling. Was off trail and fell 200 feet off the rim, did make it, and and that trail there is very popular because it's a beautiful place at sunset. People go there. The people who are there at the North Rim, typically staying there, like we've done a couple of times, go there and watch sunset. Then they all go back into the lodge, or crowd into the lodge, and get something to eat. It's a beautiful spot, but it's a pretty good trail. It's actually a paved trail, if I remember correctly. So I'm not really sure how this happened. There was another one where a woman fell to her death in Oregon, in the Columbia River Gorge near Portland. She fell 100 feet to her death, and I believe that she had also, let me just double check this, but I believe that she had also gone off trail. And let me just verify that. I'm reading the article right now. It doesn't really say. So it doesn't really say if she was off trail or not. So I don't want to say that they drifted off trail. Then we have this incident in Lake Havasu City where 3 people decided to go hiking, and they ended up calling 911 because they were obviously suffering the effects of heat. And they get lost on the trails near Lake Havasu City, so we got an issue there with them probably not familiar with the trails. Yeah. It is blazing hot there. They started at 2:30 p.m. Well, they called 911 at 2:30 p.m. They were out of water, lost, showing signs of heat exhaustion. It's 2:30 p.m. in Lake Havasu. And they were going out to a place called Sarah Park. Lake Havasu City Fire Department called the county sheriff to find the group consisting of a 63-year-old woman, a 61-year-old man, a 31-year-old man, and a 27-year-old woman. They found the 3 hikers. 3 hikers near the trail, sent the 2 women to a hospital for treatment. The 61-year-old man was taken back to the command post. We said, by the way, we're missing the 31-year-old man. He had left them to find the trailhead when they called 911. Search and rescue teams were sent out along the trail system in the park. There were a couple of State Patrol helicopters from Arizona sent there, one from Kingman, one from Phoenix. Searched the area. He was found dead off the trail system in a desert wilderness area. They were visiting from out of town and were unaware of hiking in the heat on a day on challenging trails. So I want to make it clear we're not going to victim shame here.
Correct.
These are tragic incidents. These are unfortunate incidents. what bothers me, with the exception of one in Oregon, I just don't have enough information. And we've said that anything can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
So you could be doing all the right things, and you could have a rock roll out from under you, or something could happen, and you could have an accident. But the other 3 incidents, the one in New Hampshire, the one in the Grand Canyon, this one in Lake Havasu City, basic principles of safe outdoor recreation were not followed. The key thing being staying on designated trails. Now, I know we all like to go bushwhack. We all want to go and check out other things. And that's okay if you're familiar with where you're going. If you're not, and I will bet you this, I shouldn't say I'll bet you, I would guess that the person who had the accident in North Rim of the Grand Canyon had probably never been there before. North Rim is, you got to want it. It's way out of the way. It's hard to get to. It's a 4-hour drive from the South Rim because it's 100 some odd miles. You got to go all the way around. So my guess would probably be, an educated guess would probably be for probably the first time there. The people from New Hampshire, you heard the story. Well, we were going to take the tram down. We decided we'd hike down, and we'd never been here, and we went down this other trail, and we ended up falling off a waterfall. The people in Lake Havasu City, they didn't grasp the heat. I don't know how they didn't grasp the heat. They didn't know where they were. They were unprepared. They split up. What we've said about splitting up, you do not ever split up. And especially after you've called 911, you stay put, wait for help to come get you. If you're moving, they can't find you. So these three incidents were basic things. So I just want to drive home the point. Stay on designated trails. Don't wander off, especially if you've never been there.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely do not want to wander off. Now, if this is a hike in your neighborhood or in the city you live in, like you're in Colorado Springs, or you're up in the Pike National Forest here, in the city you're not supposed to be off trail. Same thing with the county parks. But if you're up in the Pike National Forest and you're hiking a trail you've been on before, and it's okay in the national forest to kind of bushwhack a little, and yeah, you're probably pretty safe. You're familiar with the area, you're familiar with the trails, you can go and bushwhack a little bit. And go off trail, but always understand that there's a risk to that. Trails are put in where they're put in because people who know a lot about how to build trails put them in a way that you can't say that everything is 100% safe, but they're designed to, be a fairly safe route. I guess is the best way I'm going to put it. I'm not going to guarantee anybody's safety. You can be on a designated trail and still have an accident happen. But these 3 incidents are examples of what happens when you just don't follow basic safety guidelines. People in Lake Havasu did not have nearly enough water, should not have been hiking in Lake Havasu in August at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly.
That's just insane. And then they shouldn't have split up. Their partner got lost. He was probably, my guess would be, suffering the effects of the heat, probably was not thinking clearly, was just wandering around until it killed him. Let's not let this happen.
And a good habit to get into is, if you're going somewhere new, research it heavily. What I've done, especially if I'm going to do a big hike, for the first time, whether that's here in Colorado or Wyoming, Utah, et cetera, I research it so much, and I'll even watch YouTube videos of those who have hiked it before, and make sure I pay attention to stuff that the hikers saying about the trail, because there's a lot of YouTube channels out there about hiking where they're very, very good about explaining how they prep for the trail, what they're expecting, and I just think that's extremely important. Yeah,
and Kevin, you and I travel, a fair amount, and go hiking in different parts. You just did Mount Whitney in California. You did a boatload of prep for that one. I know you did a lot of research for it. I spend several months of the year down in the desert in Arizona, so I, do a lot of research on trails. I go there. I have a friend who's, she hikes a lot down in that area, so she's kind of like my source guide. Like, I'll text her, like, I want to do this trail, and either like, do you want to go with me, or what can you tell me about it? She's a source I trust. She asked me about trails up this way.
Oh, yeah.
You want to, especially if you find somebody that you trust, that that's going to give you pretty good information, you want to reach out to them. But if not, and you talk about YouTube channels, that's great. I would suggest that you look at multiple videos if you can find them. This way you get a more rounded some person can be saying, "Oh, this is an easy hike," and the next guy can go, "This is crazy, stupid, hard."
Yeah.
The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, or one of them is just wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
But you want to get a couple of sources. You want to look up a couple of things, and you want to just really research it. Especially, in a time of the year, whether it's in the summer when it's hot or in the winter when you can have a blizzard or something like that, you want to get a good idea of what the conditions are like and make sure that you're prepared for it. The 10 essentials, the leave no trace principles, all those things can make for an enjoyable hike. I've done a lot of trails that I've never, ever been on before, and I start out with them on the first time. Sometimes they're harder than I expected. Sometimes they're easier. I've never had an accident on those because, A, I've been lucky, but B, it's because I do the research like you have done. Like I'm going to give 99% of the people listening to this podcast the benefit of the doubt that they do some research and they check. And I get emails all the time. Hey, I've done this trail, or I'd like to do this trail. Can you tell me anything about it? I'd be happy to tell you everything I know about the trail. Any trail you want to ask me about if I've done it. If I haven't done it, I'll find somebody who has and have them tell you what it's like. So, we're happy to share information because the goal is we want everybody to go out there and hike or cycle or ride their horses or whatever they want to do and come back home and it's fine if they say, boy, that was tougher than I thought and I'm pretty sore. That's okay. I want them all to come home.
Exactly.
I want everybody to come home and at least say, I did that hike. I did that trail. I saw that peak. I saw that view or that waterfall or that lake or whatever it is. Come back with great pictures, good memories, and enjoy themselves, and that's the goal here. But, the common theme on these was off trail, and the one for Lake Havasu was just not prepared. I cannot imagine how hot it was. I know that in Phoenix, they are still, this late in August, they are still experiencing almost every day it's 100 degrees or more.
Oh, man.
So, so what you imagine what it's like in that lake. And it is like, if you've ever been out on the lake on a 100-degree day, you feel like you're in an oven. It's just reflecting off the water, and it is just brutal. And not just if you're on the water do you get that, but you get that effect throughout, anywhere you're around there. It's just bouncing off that. So it's pretty tough.
It does remind me, and I'm not trying to make light of the fall at the Grand Canyon, but when I was there, we started to hike at night, and so once the sunrise started, I was just like, oh, this is so beautiful, just blown away. That my friend had to yell at me a few times because I was looking at the scenery and was getting way too close to the edge of the trail. In a part of the canyon where there's a drop off, where if I stepped off the trail, I'd fall and I would get seriously hurt or die. So be aware of that too. Like don't focus so much on the scenery, or if you want to, just make sure you stop and look.
Stop, look, take a picture. Stop in and take a picture. Makes you stop and just gather, your situational awareness, I guess, like we used to call it in the fire department. Some situational awareness, what's going on there, and just kind of look around, and go, my toes are hanging off the edge. Maybe I should take a step or two back.
Yeah,
this might not be a bad idea. And again, we're not making light of anything here, and we're not victim blaming here. This is
correct.
When we bring these things up, and Kevin and I have talked about these incidents in the past, it's always been just a reminder, whether you're the experienced person who's listening to this podcast, it's a good reminder to have. If you're new to hiking, it's just another reminder for you to, an educational point. We don't want to, I dread the day that I read one of these articles that some accident happens and it turns out to be a name that I recognize. It just would just devastate me, and I don't want to see that happen to anybody. Kevin, you got anything else on that?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
I think we got the point across.
Yeah, I hope so. And if you have any questions about anything, again, you can email me. Go to my website. There's a link there. Kevin, you can email him from his website also, and just let us know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has, and I answer a lot of them. I get a lot of emails. And or you can go to social media and DM me. Always happy to answer an email anybody might have about these trails or safety or whatever. If I don't have the answer, we'll find it. And if I can't find it, I'll tell you that too. But I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to make it up as I go along. Kevin, you wanted to talk about your go-to hikes you recommend to people who are visiting the Pikes Peak region. So I'll let you take that one and just tell me what hikes you like to tell people to go to.
Well, I had a friend who currently lives in the Midwest come into town for a wedding, and I haven't seen her in in 7 years. So she's like, I love following your hikes and stuff. And she wanted me to take her on a couple hikes. And I realized, like, yeah, there's always those certain hikes that are just to go to once, especially for friends who are coming from a much lower elevation, and especially if they're not a regular hiker, like they might be a runner or just go for walks. So the first place I took her is this loop that I love to do in Red Rock Canyon open space. There's not really a whole lot of climbing anywhere in that park, and if there is climbing, it's very gradual depending on which route you go. And I feel like it really shows off how beautiful it is here, plus the geology too, with the red rocks, and it's just a gorgeous place. And so I took her there, and then we went to a wedding. Then we're a little hungover the next morning, so...
You're kidding.
Right? So I had a slightly harder hike planned. But she was like, no, I really want to do it, but let's
especially if she's from the Midwest. She's probably not a good idea.
Yeah. And so I took her up Mount Cutler, which is a popular hike that I take my friends on, because while there is climbing, pretty much the entire way you're going uphill, but it's extremely short hike. I think round trip is 2 miles or something like that.
Yeah, just barely. It's a little over, I think. Yeah, not much more than that.
And you still get a great view of the Seven Falls area, and you get to the top. You still get a great view of the city and the mountains around you. And yeah, and she just loved it.
Good. So that's one of your go-tos. One of them is in Red Rock Canyon. The other one is Mount Cutler.
Yeah.
Do you have any other ones you like, or?
The Cracks is the great one to go to, because I've always said that I think the Cracks is the best bang for your buck hike for someone new, because it's not a difficult hike. There's a little bit climbing in the beginning, and then you go through a valley that's really beautiful, and then there's a little bit of climbing at the very end. But at the summit, you can see like 90 miles away, all the way around you. It's a beautiful hike, I think. Actually, the last time a friend of mine came into town and wanted to hike, I took her on that trail. And Section 16 I've taken friends on too, which is a bit more of a workout, but it's just a beautiful hike.
Yeah, and unfortunately part of that trail is still closed due to that rock slide. And there's a whole story behind that.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, well, welcome to the federal government and the slow rusty wheels that they turn. And I'm not picking on my friends over there. It is the nature of the federal government. But yeah, no, Section 16 is a great hike. And depending on which way you go. Now, I like doing that loop clockwise.
Oh, okay.
Because the steeper part is at the end. Because if you go counterclockwise, that's a steep climb up to the top of that hill. So I like doing that clockwise and there's still a bit of a climb, but it's much more gradual. Then you have that steep part going down. And steep going down is not it's harder, but in a different way.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Going up, it's a workout on your lungs, or you climb. It's pretty steep. Going down, it's just like you just have to, just watch your footing and stuff like that. But you take your time and you're fine. Those are all good hikes. Those are actually a great list of hikes. I would also add some, Palmer Park would be a good place to do a little bit of hiking. Yeah. You drive up to Yucca Flats or something like that and do that big loop hike there. It's flat. It's a big mesa. You get to get great views of Pikes Peak and the city and some areas around there. I would add Ute Valley Park.
Oh,
some nice views up there, and you get the hoodoos, and you got trees, and you got all kinds of different things there. That would be another one that I would add to that, especially for people, like you said, coming from out of town. And, of course, there's Garden of the Gods. That's a given. North Cheyenne Canyon, you talked about, the Mount Cutler Trail. And you could also do Seven Bridges Trail. Which
is also very easy, but beautiful, too.
It's at elevation, so it's a little hard for people coming from lower elevations. But on the other hand, it's pretty flat. I mean, you're walking along that road, which is a railroad grade, so it didn't have a lot of angle to it. And then you go off, to do the bridges. But other than, let's see, there's a little bit of uphill right after the 5th bridge, and then between the 6th and 7th bridges a little bit. But they're short, and again, it's just a matter of taking your time. And, of course, turn around, too.
And another great one to do is Aiken Canyon, because that's a really nice loop to do. and you can choose to take a detour up to the top of that little mountain right there, and you get really nice views up there. But the loop itself is fairly flat.
Yep. Yeah, Aiken Canyon's going, and let's not forget our state park. Mueller State Park has some pretty easy trails. There's a couple there that have some elevation, but if you go to the north end of the park and do the big loop around Cheeseman Ranch, if you take that one clockwise, you have a steep downhill, but then after that, it's a gradual uphill to return. Do not do that one counterclockwise, especially if you're not, because there's a steep uphill coming up after you go by, past Dynamite Cabin. And then I did the Black Bear Trail a couple of days ago, and off of there, and that's a nice trail, and there's one little section that's a little steep, but after that, it's just a nice little trail. It just runs along a ridgeline, and that was going. So there's a lot of places you can recommend, but that's good to know your go-tos. Horsty Falls.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit of a climb, but it's very gradual. After you do the 2 switchbacks right from the parking lot, it's a gradual over the course of a couple miles to get up there, and it's not that hard of a hike. Now, I would not necessarily bring a newcomer to do the turn there and go up the Pancake Rocks.
Oh, no.
The section there is pretty steep. But somebody new here or just visiting, coming from lower elevation, definitely up the Horsty Falls would be a nice one. And, they get probably not much of a waterfall now, but if you go there in the spring, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But this time of the year, probably, unless it's right after a rainstorm, there's probably not a whole lot of water coming off of that. But again, a good hike. And they can say they hiked in the mountains.
Yep, exactly.
Make everybody happy. And let's see, this coming weekend, Kevin, is Labor Day. We talked about that. So good day to get out and do some hiking. Also, the Labor Day liftoff balloon event down in Memorial Park.
Oh, that's right.
I will be there at least one morning taking pictures. So if you see me down there someplace, say hi. And that's always a lot of fun. The best part is it's free, which I think is just awesome that we have this event, and it's still a free event, and everybody gets to go there. So that starts, there's a couple of balloon glows at night. There's launches on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday morning, weather permitting. I have not looked at what the weather looks like for that yet. The only 2 things that stop it from happening is either if it's raining or if it's windy. And sometimes that wind is not evident at ground level. They send up test balloons and stuff, and they see what it does at elevation, and they, of course, they have all kinds of weather observations and things like that. So you may sit there and go, why aren't they launching the balloons? It's not windy here. Well, it may be windy 500 feet up, or the wind may take them in a direction that they don't want to go into. And even on those days, if it's not windy at ground level, they'll still inflate them on the ground. It's always a good time. It's always a lot of fun. It's a lot of getting up early because, they're going to launch pretty soon after sunrise and get up there. But it is a lot of fun. So if you're around, if you're visiting Colorado Springs or you have people visiting this weekend, I would definitely take them out to Memorial Park either in the morning for a launch or one of the evenings for the balloon glows, which is pretty cool. That's kind of a madhouse.
Oh yeah.
But it is fun. I don't recall in all the years I've lived here, and this thing's been going on for many, many years. I don't recall anything, crazy happening there. It's fun. Parking can be a challenge, so I definitely recommend getting there early and finding parking. You can get parking passes to park actually in the park.
Oh, okay.
Do that, and I'll put a link in the show notes to the Labor Day Liftoff website. I'm not sure how far in advance you can get a parking pass, so if you can still get them, I'd recommend getting one. Those do cost you, but admittance to the park, to the event is free, so if you can park 6-8 blocks away, you can walk in, that's fine. But also always a good time, a lot of booths there, a lot of entertainment. They just really have a lot of fun there. And the best part is what everybody wants is the balloons will launch over the lake, and they drop the balloons down and they splash the baskets into the lake. Sometimes I've wondered if they're going to get too much water in those baskets and not get them back out, but those pilots are very good at what they do, and they were able to do that. So that's always a fun event to go to.
And if you're not a fan of crowds, I've actually done sunrise hikes in years past where I will make sure I'm up at a certain part of a trail with a great view of the city. And then when the sunrise, you just see all these balloons in the air, and it's a really cool sight. Yeah, you don't have to go to the park. You're exactly right. You don't have to go to the park to experience it. You could be south. Typically, the winds go south out of there. Every couple of years, they'll get a day where the winds go north, so people in the north side of town, like we are here,
will get the balloons overhead. But typically they go south, a little south and east. So if you're down towards Fountain, down towards Security Widefield area down there, you may get the balloons coming right over you or landing in your neighborhood. Sometimes they land right in the middle of streets and neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Always gets people excited, makes dogs go crazy, drives the cops nuts because they got to block the road so they get the balloon out of the way. But it's a lot of fun. And I would also suggest, if you ever have the chance to do that, to go up for a balloon ride. I've done a couple of them.
Oh, okay, cool.
It is fun. It's not necessarily inexpensive, but I will tell you that you will do it and you will say that was worth it. It is a lot of fun being up there. I did one during the big balloon fiesta down in Albuquerque, which is just the granddaddy of them all. And I would really recommend people, if you like this, in October they have the big one down in Albuquerque where they launch like 1,000 balloons a day. It's just insane. And I've done it down there. I've done a balloon ride there and done a couple up here. But you're floating with the wind, so you don't get this sense of motion. And it's just a lot of fun. And you fly over people and they wave and they say hi. And then you land in their driveway or something. Hopefully not on the roof or anything like that. It is a lot of fun. So if you get a chance and you can do it, I would highly recommend going for a ride if you can do that. It is really, really a lot of fun. And they have those during the summer. They're not something that you just do during these events, but of course that's what attracts people to them as well. That looks pretty cool. Let me go up for a ride. But you can do them during the year too.
Cool.
So Kevin, anything else you wanted to talk about today? You got any hikes going on or anything planned for this? Well, what do you have planned for this weekend?
This weekend, I'm not actually sure. It came up so fast.
Yeah, it's Labor Day already.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I do have a hike planned for next weekend. It's me and a bunch of coworkers are going to hike up the Crestone Needle, which is a 14er that is class 3. And
so tell people what class 3 means.
So class 3 it's unroped scrambling across rocks and climbing. So not climbing straight up, but you will be climbing up a steep ascent, and not like a requirement, but it's highly recommended to bring a helmet. Because it's very loose scrambling and the rocks and stuff. It's very easy to knock them loose, and you don't want the rocks to fall on someone below you. So it's definitely going to be the most challenging 14er that I've done. Because most 14ers I've done have been mostly class 1 or class 2,
which are you hike up them.
Yeah, and then you might do a little bit of scrambling and such, but like at the very, very top, and that's it. But I do believe that once you get from the South Colony Lake, once you get past that point, that's when you start scrambling, and you essentially just go straight up. So it's going to be a workout, and I'm like, why did I agree to do this?
I was going to ask you the same thing. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
That's known as one of the more, not the most difficult, obviously, but one of the more difficult 14ers to do. It's in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains,
yeah.
Right? So it's down south here, probably about a 2-hour-ish drive from Colorado Springs to get down there. A very popular area, a lot of mountains down there. Those are some of the newer mountains because they're very jagged. They're not rounded and worn down like the wet mountains right across the valley from them or some of the other ones. So they're, in the grand scheme of things, younger mountains. And you could tell they have very jagged peaks and everything, which makes them a little more difficult. They're very sharp and they're very angular and very steep don't let me talk about you on one of these articles.
Oh, yeah.
So cool. Well, so you got to get yourself a helmet, and you got to check your life insurance policy. And
yeah.
I'm not trying to make light of this, people. Just trying to have a little fun here. So you know what? When you get done that, we'll talk about it here on the podcast. I want to hear your thoughts on it, see what it's like, and if you ever talk to your coworkers again after that's over. You may decide to get a new job. Like, I'm not doing this with these people anymore.
Exactly, yeah.
Probably not. It should all be good. Well, with that, Kevin, I think we'll say goodbye to everybody. Everybody have a good, safe Labor Day weekend. I hope to see you out there someplace on the trails. A lot of you I follow or I see on Instagram and Facebook, and so I see the hikes you're doing. So have a good time out there. Be safe. Learn a little bit from these folks. Stay on the designated trails. Make sure you're prepared. This time of the year, it's pretty safe to be prepared. It's not that hard. The heat's going away. The cold's not here yet. It's going to be I will tell you, though, when I was down taking Milky Way pictures the other night, we were down in West Cliff. Man, did it get cold.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. It was down like 40 degrees, and and you're not moving. You're just standing there with your camera and a tripod taking these long pictures. It was cold. So remember, if you're going to be out overnight, if you're going to do backpacking, and you should always be prepared that you may have to spend the night someplace. Something happens, you get hurt or something. Boy, did it get cold when we were out there. So just be prepared for that. It still can get cold in some of the higher elevations. But other than that, I think we'll say goodbye to everybody.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast.
Before you go, did you know you can rate and review our Studio 809 podcasts? That will help us because our egos really need to have thousands and thousands of listeners. But that helps our wonderful sponsors reach more ears too. And we do love our sponsors. So just go to Studio 809 or any individual 809 podcast in your iTunes or podcast app and click on ratings and reviews. Thanks.